I'm Jimmy, and I like to make stuff. Hi, my name is Jimmy. Hi, my name is Jimmy. My name is Jimmy DiResta, and I make stuff out of all different materials. I started making things when I was very, very young. I remember my dad let me at the jigsaw for the very first time, this old Rockwell jigsaw, which is actually still in my shop. I've had it all this time. The most common injury is when I'm just jamming something and it slips and I poke myself in the hand or the arm. And it took me about 40 years to realize, stop pushing things in the direction of your other body parts. I used to go to the hospital so often when I was a kid for stitches in my hand, mostly my left hand, that at one point, we would go to the hospital and me and my mother would sit in the emergency room for hours before the doctor would see me, give me 5 stitches, and then we'd leave, and it would cost money and time. And at one point, I began to realize I could just crazy glue my cuts shut. And when that happened, I stopped going to the emergency room. I just would do some frontier medicine on myself. If I could give anybody advice about doing what I'm doing, I think it's just to keep it consistent, creative, fast, and fun. Personally, I learn by watching. That's how I've always learned. For instance, like if I got something that needed to be assembled, I would always say, just let me see the picture on the box. And I would watch people do things. I simply would watch them and then go back and try it myself. And so that's how my video style developed, and it identified with a lot of people. There have been definitely times where I have a very specific idea and it totally makes a left turn. And I roll with it because as much, like if I've gone down a certain avenue and either me personally or somebody walks in my shop and goes, oh, why don't you just do that? And I'm like, I gotta undo all this work, but what you're saying or what I've discovered is absolutely the best way to do it. My patience is, I'm a little impatient, although people might watch me and not believe that. I'm a little impatient, and I'm trying to do my best on this boat behind me. This canoe is a really good project for me to practice being disciplined. And I find myself rushing even with this a little bit here and there. And you know, with this type of woodwork, you pay the price because it's very detail oriented, and you'll have like a chip or you know, a piece of wood that you need to kind of replace. So I'm trying my best. By the time I'm done, I'll be better at it. Out here, working on the canoe specifically, it's really nice to work at night. But in general, I work anytime, it doesn't matter. The most productive for me is when I'm totally alone and I'm just tinkering, and that's when I really come up with a lot of breakthroughs. When you design and develop stuff, you have your eye on the goal, but every once in a while when you tinker, you have a breakthrough and you realize, oh wow, the idea of a giant razor blade, that's a breakthrough. And the idea of, you know, putting a ring on top of the sheath for the ice pick gives it a visual identity and also makes it practical. In my spare time, I like hunting for old machines lately, you know, in my older age. I like finding machines. It's kind of the thrill of the hunt. And then you look at it and you really make an assessment whether you could bring it back to life, or if it doesn't need to be brought back to life, if you could utilize it in your day-to-day. Or, you know, lately I'm looking for old machines partly because I really like them, and then partly because I want to see how I could integrate a cool, interesting vintage texture into my videos. Like I like it when my fans could pick out past projects in the background or other ideas, or they say, oh, when are you going to get to that project? I see you started it in the background. So I like my imagery to be cluttered, and part of that clutter I like to be cluttered with vintage machinery. Oh, I love working with reclaimed materials. I love giving new life to old wood, for instance, and it goes back to what I was saying. It's really nice to have that instant texture, whether it's like a grittiness or a story, or if you find like a piece of an old ship. You know, Tim has given me some pieces of old boats, and Levi has given me, I don't know if you know Levi, I met him through Tim. Levi gave me the old leaf springs off his car, and I turned it into a knife. So the idea of recycling something, it's a nice story, and a lot of people, it leaves people with a really warm and fuzzy feeling knowing that it just didn't get thrown away. When I come up with a new project for the very first time, what I'll do is, the first thing I'll do is research it to see if anybody's done it similarly. So I'll go right on Google Imagery, Google, YouTube, and start to see if there are any versions of it out there. And if they are, is my idea, my initial idea, still original enough to pursue it? Very infrequently, but there have been times where I look up and I see exactly. And a funny example of that, we were just talking about my little hands. I wanted to make a set of push sticks on the CNC machine. And I said, what's better than just having a pair of hands as push sticks? And so I Googled, and I'm thinking in terms of a CNC process where I'm going to cut out an imagery of hands. And there was a lot. A lot of guys have thought of the idea of, like, you know, just like flat cartoon hands as push sticks and stuff. And so I just put that idea on the side and I didn't pursue it. And then within a few weeks, I was at the store and I saw these little rubber hands and I picked it up. I'm like, oh, this is a cool little rubber hand. And then a minute later, I'm like, oh my God, there's a left and a right hand. And I thought it was just the one side, because that's usually what a toy company will just waste their time doing one thing as cheap as possible. But they made the mold for the left and the right hand. And I bought them and I didn't really know what to do with them. And so I'm back at the house and now it's weeks later and they're sitting around the shop just bouncing around on the table. And then me and Brett were playing on the table saw and I was like, oh, so I stuck the rubber hands onto the ends of these round dowels and they became the push sticks. So it was an idea that I thought of, researched, got discouraged. Then I found this whole new idea, because I wouldn't think to use little rubber hands to push through the table saw. It wouldn't be a thought, but it all came together. So I basically planted the seed of the idea. Later on I found some fertilizer for that idea and then it came together. And it's not a groundbreaking idea, but it is a good visual pun that a lot of people are knowing me for now. If I had unlimited funds and time and energy, I probably would restore vintage trucks. I like old trucks. And if it came to making something, it would probably be customizing various parts for a truck. So something like that, or a motorcycle. Probably a truck, because for me a truck's more useful. A motorcycle is more of a leisure thing, which is something I don't really do. I don't do anything leisurely. I like to have net results when I do stuff. As far as the biggest sense of accomplishment has been my YouTube catalog. Because for many years, as an artist and a designer, I grew up in the generation where it's you have to please a production company, or you have to please a network, or you have to please a print company to grant you the right to create your art. And now with YouTube and the internet and the way everyone's just self-publishing, now we can do it ourselves. And I had that moment of clarity after I did my last Discovery Channel show, and my girlfriend and I were discussing. These guys watched some of my old pitch videos, and each one of those pitch videos is just like a 5 or 10 minute thing, but I would pore over them for months to get them perfect. And if I knew I was going to meet this company, I'd re-edit it to fit their needs. And if I knew I was going to meet this production company, I'd re-edit it to meet their needs. So I have 10 versions of all these little pitch tapes of different ideas. And now I make a video every couple days. And that video lives on its own, and it comes directly out of my mind and hands and body. And I don't need anybody's approval. I don't need anybody to grant me the right. I have the right myself. So when I think of my biggest accomplishment, it's my YouTube channel and the series I created on YouTube. Why do I put my name on everything? Why do I put my name on everything? It's a real simple answer. It's because my videos get boosted, jacked, stolen, ripped, and they end up on other people's channels and I don't get credit. So I don't typically put my face in a lot of my build videos. It's usually just my hands. You very rarely see my face, it's just my body. And so to identify the video and brand it as where it came from, my name appears in the video on the objects in the video. And that is the bottom line. It's just to keep the videos watermarked in a very unadjustable way. So I keep my videos watermarked in a way that can't easily be taken out. I just had some friends here this weekend and we were discussing that, and he says, my videos, they take my video and they crop out the watermark in the corner and it ends up on a different platform. And he said, he goes, I like that your name is on all your tools and everything, so you can't crop the watermark out. It's inherent in the video. It's like the fingerprint of the video. And that's it.